What's up, guys? Mark back here with yet another video. So recently I've been uploading a lot more of my own personal work onto both like Instagram and 500 pixels and stuff since we've kind of gotten this little group thing going, and really been enjoying that. But what I've also gotten is a few questions about what types of programs I use, how I use those programs to develop my photographs, and things of that nature. So first of all, let me just go ahead and say that I am probably one of the very few photographers out there that absolutely despises Adobe. So I've got my own reasons. I won't go into them. But ultimately, I use a lot of much more affordable, less known methods to develop my photographs. I'm going to share them with you in this video. But I also want to show you kind of the process that I go through. I like really dark, contrasty, gritty photographs. I'm not really one for the pretty or the beautiful. I don't mind them if a client wants them, especially for like, you know, weddings and stuff like that. Obviously, every bride wants to be really pretty and beautiful, but I've got a few selections of photographs that I've taken here in the past. Some of them, or one of them, is with my old Nikon D600. I've also got 2 photo shoots that I did where I used the Sony A6300. So if you guys are interested in checking this out, come on and hop on over to the computer with me and we'll get started. First up, I just want to say right out of the gate that there is no right way or wrong way to basically process your photographs. You have your own vision of what the final product ought to look like. So, you know, don't just look at what I do or what someone else does. You have to kind of find your own way. Now, there are exceptions to that rule. If you're doing work for a client and you're trying to make some money, do what the client wants, make it look the way the client wants it to look. But otherwise, if it's your work, it's your creative vision, make it the way you want it to look, and use whatever tools best suit your workflow. So at any rate, I've got 3 photographs here. This one is actually a raw photograph. I took this for a photo shoot that was supposed to be in my art gallery showing. Unfortunately, this one didn't make the cut, but I really love this one, so I'm going to edit it my own way and actually, you know, release it into the wild here very soon. I also took this shot with my Nikon D600. I think I had it several years ago. Took this shot, and I really love this shot. And I work in both RAW and JPEG, by the way. So a lot of my photographs end up being really sort of dirty, gritty, and raw. And both JPEG and RAW usually work just fine for me. I usually just shoot in the extra fine JPEG. This one happens to have slightly blown out highlights, but it's really not going to matter the way I'm going to end up processing, because most of my photographs, the ones that I like the most, always end up being black and white. And I've selected these 3 because all 3 of these are going black and white. So here we go. So I use 2 different programs most of the time when I'm processing black and white photographs. The first one is called Camera Bag Photo. Most of you guys have probably never heard of it. It's a very inexpensive program. I think you can most times buy it for, I don't know, 20, 25 bucks or whatever. So let's go ahead and open up this first photograph here. And really, I enjoy, for the most part, old film stocks. My personal favorite happens to be Ilford Delta series film stock. And a lot of other people really like Fuji. I like Fuji too, but it doesn't seem to have that deep contrast that I like. So anyway, with this program, you can basically do all your basic stuff. You can do exposure, contrast, saturation. It's not actually a review of the app. I just wanted to let you guys know what I was using. And then, of course, they've got a ton of presets, like a ton of them, black and white essentials, all different types. But again, I always tend to lean more toward the film stock. On occasion, there'll be like some sort of special product or whatever that I won't mind starting with. So I'm going to start off with the Ilford Delta 3200. This is really my favorite because it gives me the most level of grit and grain and contrast. But if I don't like the way it looks when I first apply it, I can always use this as a starting point and then kind of build off of that. And right off the bat, I like the grain. I would like it to be just a little bit more. Maybe not that much, but anyway, the scale, depending on how dark a photograph is, that's when you start maybe wanting to mess around with the amount and the scale and all that kind of stuff. Generally, if it's a much darker photograph, I like to increase the scale just a little bit because I find that it simulates a higher ISO of film for lower light conditions, and it makes it more authentic. But it doesn't always have to be authentic. But this is honestly, this is already really close to what I was hoping that it would look like. I may just go ahead and add a vignette. That's getting me a little bit closer, but I do want to play around with this. Maybe turn the fall off down just a little bit so we can retain some of the details around the edges. And now we're getting much closer to what I was hoping for. Let's increase... bring it back just a little bit. And I also think that I want to mess around with the contrast. So I want to make it just a little bit more contrasty. It doesn't have to be much. I just want the shadows and stuff to really sort of contrast with the highlights that we have here. That's not too bad. I actually kind of like that, and I'm going to bring down the highlights just a little bit to bring back just a smidge of detail in there. Right about there. So honestly, that's about as much as I like to do. I don't want to be, I don't want to go all crazy and stuff with my edits. It just takes too much time, honestly. If it was a comp or something like that, you might want to go into a little bit more depth and really sort of tweak it and everything, but I'm just not that way. Most of the time I like to try and compose my images as close to what I want to see in the end product as I possibly can without having to do a whole lot of rotating and horizon fixing and all that kind of stuff. But the other app that I wanted you guys to take a look at was this one. It's an app by MacFun, who makes Aurora HDR, and they also make that new app called Luminar. But they make a lot of like really functional, really amazing low-end photo editing apps that you can find on the Mac App Store. I don't know if this one is available for Windows users, but I do know that like Luminar has a lot of these style features inside of that. I own that as well, but I find that tonality works just fine for me, and it's a much more highly specialized app. So again, I always go back to film emulation. Even though they've got different levels of presets, I usually don't mess around with them. It also happens to have Ilford Delta 3200, and again, I get my same level of grain there. In this particular photograph, I think that I'm just going to try and bring back a little bit of these highlights, and I want to sort of darken up this corner here. So let's bring down the highlights just a smidge, kind of bring some of those details back. And maybe I will bring up the blacks, or turn down the blacks just a little bit. And let's increase that contrast. So I'll have to try and bring back the highlights a little bit more. Alright, that's already, like I said, pretty much looking exactly the way I wanted. I just want to kind of darken up this corner here and still leave the cat statue in the background kind of scene. But I think I do want to add a little bit of clarity to kind of, there's so many wrinkles down here that... So let's look at that with and without. Yeah. It's not a huge difference, but it's a little bit, and I like it quite a bit, honestly. And I would take this photograph and I would probably post it as is. I may tweak it a little bit more afterwards, but for the most part, this is very, very close to my style of end product photography. I'm going to switch back over to camera bag photo, and then I'm also going to load up that last photograph, which is this one. I'm just going to leave all the same presets, and again, and you can switch that off, turn it back on, and kind of see where you started and then where you're going. So it works out pretty good. And you can also turn each one of the modules off to kind of see exactly what it would look like with and without certain effects. You can almost look at these as though they were layers. But honestly, I'm really already very close to where I was hoping to be on this one. You can just see how much personality that grain adds. But I am going to increase the scale of my grain here quite a bit, because I think that it will emulate or better emulate what a film style camera would have had to have used as far as ISO, and generally in the darker areas and things that transition between your highlights and your shadows, usually that grain pattern gets a little bit bigger and a little bit more prominent, and so I kind of like that on these darker shots. So the vignette itself, I think that I'm going to turn down the fall off just a little bit, because I kind of like the way that it's playing around here on the floor. It's given just enough information that you kind of know what's going on. But I do think that I am going to boost up just a little bit so that I can see more of the arm and the hands. We can actually get an accurate representation of somebody that was walking by. So ultimately, that's really all I like to do. Most of my photographs are very, very gritty and raw, and I love that about photographs. Now, I realize that there are a lot of situations where you don't want this, but for me personally, this is exactly how I like my photographs to look. I enjoy a less perfect, a less pure image, finally. But there are a lot of situations where you don't want to use this. A lot of people don't like anything less than the absolute clearest, sharpest, most pure photographs, and I just don't happen to be that way. So this is how I like to edit my photographs. It really is a very simple way for me to do my workflow, and I just manage all my photographs inside of Apple Photos and then use these secondary apps as a way to get a highly specialized look that I want. So there you have it, and there you go, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, go ahead, give it a thumbs up, and if you really loved it, consider subscribing to the channel and stay up to date with all the other new videos that I release. If you have any questions or whatever, just drop those down in the comment section below. I am really fairly good about answering most questions that come through on my channel. So if you've got one, or if you're interested, just go ahead and drop them down there, and I promise I'll try and get to you just as soon as I possibly can. So anyway, guys, thanks again for stopping here at The Photo Video Show. I'm your host, Mark Puckett, and I will see you guys again on the next one. Peace.